Welcome to Around Town, featuring what's going on here in the greater capital area. I'm your host, Dick Patten. It's a pleasure for you to join me today as winter has unofficially arrived. Yes, we have the snow, we have some ice out there, and skiers are generally happy, and Santa's getting his sleigh ready along with the reindeer, and well, me, I'm waiting for Michigan to take the field in Tampa for the Outback Bowl. But anyway, here and now, I have with me a very nice guy that I met at the State House recently, and he's going to teach me some things, I hope. Teach an old dog new tricks, but you know how it is. And with me is State Representative Caleb Dyer, and Caleb is part of the now recognized, or newly recognized again, the Libertarian Party. Back when I was a supervisor of the checklist, just plain supervisor back, I was supervisor for 29 years. Ooh. Yeah, right in this area here on Ward 8 here in the Heights. This is my district. But I was in there, and at that time, we had the Libertarian Party as a party. And they were in for, I don't know, seems like 4 years, yeah. 5, 6 years.
About 4 or 5 years, yeah.
Because what was odd at the time, Caleb, was that, and I'm going to do this, I can see this now, looking at him and calling you, Anyway, but I can remember that the lady that was either chairman or party chairman for the Libertarian Party, I can somewhat see her name, but anyway, it was odd that when whoever got elected governor put her into a state office, a commissioner position. And I thought, well, that's different. And I don't remember who the governor was, whether it was Steve Merrill or if it was, I don't think it was Craig Benson back those days. I don't know. It was in the early mid 90s. I don't think it was in the 80s.
Yeah, it wasn't.
The early mid 90s, I think.
Yeah, but Benson was the early 2000s.
Yeah, he was only for 2 years. That was it. And goodbye, Craigie.
Yeah.
But it was odd. I just didn't. I was shocked that he would do that. But anyway, he was only in for 2 years, and I don't know how long she stayed in. Whether she was gone after that, I don't know. But I can't remember the name. I can see it. I want to think
Miriam Luce? Because Miriam Luce ran for governor, and she was actually the reason why Libertarians
that's probably who it is then, yeah.
Well, she ran for governor, and she achieved, I think, that 4 or 5% threshold, or whatever it was, to get the Libertarians ballot access. And I don't know if she ended up in Merrill's administration.
It may not.
I don't think she did.
He may have been way back when. I can't remember now.
Yeah, but I do remember the members of the Libertarian Party who were in the House back in the 90s. There was Andy Borsa, who actually died a couple of years ago. He was actually from Pelham, where I now live. There was Don.
Excuse me.
Excuse.
Well, there's a joke up this way. Okay.
Oh.
Pelham.
Yeah.
And Wyndham.
Yeah.
All have that.
Uppity,
attitude,
Well, Wyndham's got that attitude. I think Pelham's all right, but I mean, they're all bedroom communities,
So you just represent Pelham, Pelham alone?
No. So I grew up in Hudson. I moved to Pelham, two next door towns, but they're both in the same district together.
Oh, my sympathies. I have some good friends in Hudson, but. Because you have 12, 14 representatives?
No, we have 11. I think it used to be a slightly bigger district because they actually incorporated Litchfield in the district somehow.
Yeah.
And then Litchfield ended up joining a district in Manchester, and that's when they redistricted it a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that was nuts because we have Hopkins in joining Ward 5 in Concord. And I was like, huh?
Yeah, that's kind of weird. They're trying to break Pelham off and make Pelham its own separate district now, which it should have been for a while. But it's I've got a bill in this year with Representatives Renzullo and Representatives Ulrey, who are both from Hudson, to make Pelham its separate district with 4 seats. So that's.
But can that wash because they're not going to be redistricting until 2020.
So the
21 actually.
Usually they go by the census, but it's possible to change a district at any point in time. At least if you do it prior to an election, so you can change the district. You know, the legislature has the power to change the district at any time if it so chooses. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's try to get this started correctly. I'll be the student in school, and I'll have you the teacher. Okay, so you're going to talk about the Libertarian Party. What is the Libertarian Party? For those who aren't familiar with it.
So, in a nutshell, if I had to really describe it, we are kind of a sort of melange of personal responsibility and fiscal responsibility with social liberty. So we believe that individuals ought to be free insofar as they don't violate the rights of others or their property or what have you. And personal responsibility, taking responsibility for your actions. If you hurt someone else, or if you create a victim, you ought to compensate that victim. You ought to make whole that victim. So we believe strongly in what's known as the non-aggression principle, or at least the majority of us agree to it, which is essentially a principle that dictates that all human interaction ought to be voluntary and free of coercion. Of course, how do you go about ensuring that everyone operates that way in a free society? You can't. So you have to be prepared to defend yourself from people who do not see the same as you, think that enacting violence is okay. So in a nutshell, I would say that it can be boiled down to that very simple idea that all human interaction ought to be nonviolent and free of coercion. But policy-wise, that means things like people being able to defend themselves. We very much supported when Governor Lynch repealed the knife laws in the state of New Hampshire back in 2010. We very much supported the constitutional carry, as that recently passed, the repeal of licensing for the concealed carry of firearms. Also in policy, it means that we don't like to see people put in cages for victimless crimes like cannabis possession. We don't think that it's moral for the state to dictate to an individual how they can or cannot live their life, provided they do not aggress upon others. So, it's a very unique, I would say, philosophy. One of the things that Democrats don't often understand is why we side with them on certain issues, like Senate Bill 3 was a good example of this. The Representative White, I don't know where he's from, he might be from Concord, but Representative Andy White, who's the deputy minority leader.
No, he's from...
Well, he's
from Hanover.
From Hanover? Okay, I didn't...
He's a firefighter from Hanover. Okay. Hanover.
Yeah.
The other part of the...
Oh, well. Oh, jeez.
That's the western side.
But anyhow, he did not expect the Libertarians to be against Senate Bill 3, which was the bill amending essentially what was the definition of domicile for purposes of elections. And the reason why Libertarians, also were against that bill was because we didn't think that the codification of, the word domicile should have been, or the recodification, I should say. We don't think it should have been artificially constricted, to potentially oust certain people who would be voting. We just didn't think that was a good constriction. We did, however, support House Bill 552, which was a bipartisan bill that came to the floor the next week. That gave the Attorney General the power to investigate cases of fraud, which, as far as we saw it, if you're going to actually investigate fraud, you might as well devote the resources to it, make it easier for the Secretary of State to investigate it. So that bill we supported, but we did not support Senate Bill 3, which angered the Republicans. The Democrats were surprised, and we thought we were going to have the votes to flip it and kill the bill, but we did not. So
you surprised me a little bit, because I have just met you at the State House last week, or 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to hear more of this because it's something I'm curiosity. Not going to say curiosity kills the cat, but I've heard about them for years, but you're unless I'm mistaken, you're young. How had you been so involved in the libertarian? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. How old are you?
I'm 21.
So how are you so involved in the Libertarian Party?
Well, I grew up in a house where I was encouraged to read a lot. You know,
Good.
I read a lot of the classical liberal thinkers. You know, I grew up also being able to read and speak French, so I was able to read a lot of the folks like Bastiat and Proudhon and all those guys in original language, and that really got me interested in liberal thought and the idea of individual liberty and freedom and what that really meant. And then I started reading classical American authors like Spooner, who's from Athol, Massachusetts, and folks like that. And it drove me more and more to kind of pursue what that meant and what it meant in terms of my own personal action, the actions of others, and the actions of the state. And you know, how to best advocate for more personal freedom for myself and others.
Yep.
And that came through political action. So, you know, it was just being born into a family that encouraged me to learn and seek things out, and that's why I got so interested and involved.
So, you were one of how many down? You said down here, and so you're in a district with Hudson. You said.
Yep.
Wyndham.
Hudson and Pelham.
And they elected how many reps?
They elect 11 every 2
So how did you happen to? Because that seems to be, from what I understand, it seems to be a heavily Republican district.
It is.
How did you get in there?
Well, I ran as a Republican. Because, well, the Libertarians didn't have ballot access. And I probably, had they had ballot access at the time, I probably would have run with that party, because it's certainly more, you know, who I am. But I did go to the Pelham Town Republican Committee meetings, and I'm still actually fairly friendly with the folks there. I think many of them think that I do an all right job, representing them at the very least. But I went to the Pelham Town Republican Committee. I spoke to them, and they were very receptive. They said they wanted younger folks in, and they thought that I was a you know, representative of their values, their beliefs. You know, very much things that in heavily Republican districts tend to be very popular. Things like firearm rights and such, and that's something that the Libertarian Party is always very steadfast on.
All right, so I'm going to stop you right there. So, are you registered now as a Libertarian?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I changed my registration. I made a speech on February 9th at the Legislative Office Building detailing exactly why I switched. And I encourage people to go and watch that, because you know, I very clearly lay out why I just could no longer be a Republican. The Republican Party does not tend to treat its members very well. I don't think it treats them with the courtesy that they deserve, especially when they have dissenting viewpoints. And of course, the Republicans are not very united. In fact, the Libertarians proved this again very recently in the Speaker's election.
Oh, I thought they were wonderfully united. When it came to the election, it seemed like they were all together, like,
no,
you know.
no, they were not united whatsoever.
Really?
When Chandler failed to get a majority on that first vote, that signals to me that, you know.
But wasn't it just by 2 votes, though?
He failed to get a majority on the first vote by a handful of votes.
I thought it was just by 2 votes.
It was just by 2 votes. Well, one way or another, we were able to deny him a majority, which is powerful. If you can deny a majority, you can become the swing coalition to, you know, to kill a bill or to pass a bill. It means that the Republicans can no longer rely on just their own membership to support every idea that they put to the floor. So that was powerful as I saw it. Even though Jim didn't get, you know, the majority of the votes, that's really not what mattered. We just wanted to prevent a majority. But regardless, I just simply couldn't be a Republican no longer, any longer, I should say. They just do not have a very high regard for their rank and file membership. I don't know how it is in the Democratic Party, but my buddy Joseph, who switched from the Democrats, he's told me that they didn't so much want to work with the younger folks in the Democratic Party. So, and of course, I think one of the reasons for that is because mainly I think some of the younger folks in the Democratic Party lean slightly more libertarian in terms of personal responsibility and those kind of things that are very important to us. So I think you're seeing this fracturing among both, where some of them are coming out of the woodwork and saying, well, I really don't fit in with either of these two monoliths. I think we should, move and try something else. And I think that that the libertarians offer something else. But yeah. But
well, see, of course, in Concord, for years, it was heavily Republican here, heavily.
Yeah.
In fact, when I first started, when I was working at the sheriff's department, my supervisor, she was, I don't know, ballot inspector or something, but she said, hey Richard, she says, if you want to get anywhere political over here, you need to be a Republican. And I said, really? She said, oh yeah. She said, you need to be a Republican. So I changed, just for the heck of it. So, and I ran for supervisor checklist, and I got it. And stayed in here 29 years. And, but over the course of it, I switched and went back to Democrat after a few years, and it's just, I just didn't think that they were really. I just pictured that the Republicans have a picture of being kind of snooty, and I made that remark recently somewhere. It's come back to haunt me too, because it was just somebody it's from Hudson. This person was. Well, they were at my state range convention, and they were given an award, and I was listening to them talking, and they were talking about our people, the Grange people, and I thought, so finally I had enough of it, and I spoke up and I said, you know something? I said, you act like you're part of the hoity-toity of Hudson. Well, I guess it just about shocked her. She just about fell out of the chair, but I couldn't help it. I'd heard enough of it. Here we are, just gave you an award, and you and your husband sit there making fun of our people. The Grange at one time, I don't know how much you know about the Grange.
Well, I used to when
Caleb.
I was in Boy Scouts. We actually met at the Hudson Grange Hall. Yeah.
Oh, Hudson?
Yeah, at the Hudson Grange Hall.
Really?
Yeah.
Where Watana Grange, we used to be Watana, right across the street from the old Benson's Animal Farm.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. That's where we met.
Interesting. Well, anyway, they. I told at one time the Grange had used to have had over 125 representatives in the legislature.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, and we also had several governors who were Grangers. We also had executive councilors. We had state senators that were all members. It was quite powerful back in the day, and it's only been within the last 40 years that only because a lot of the Grangers just can't afford. They've got to work jobs. They can't. They can't afford it.
I got to work as well. I still gotta do it and make money. And
I mean, $100 a year basically.
Oh, yeah.
Plus they take taxes out, so you get $75 probably.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
You
don't get nothing for that.
Yeah, it's but it's worth it because I'd much rather it be myself than someone who I trust less to represent me and represent others. Because I just think that, sometimes it's just you need to do it. You see the problem and you want to fix it.
So how do they feel about? I know I asked you this up at the State House, but so how are they feeling about gambling? How do they feel about
libertarians?
Yeah.
We'd prefer to see gambling entirely legal if someone wants to, make a poor decision, all the power to them. I personally don't gamble. I wouldn't throw away my money like that. I think the house always wins. And I have some members of my family who've had gambling problems. So it's just not something that interests me. But if someone else wants to spend their money in some way, they should absolutely be able to do that.
See, I enjoy slot machines.
Yeah.
Now we go twice a year to Foxwoods. Myself, I would prefer to spend my money here, but there's no casino.
Yeah.
And Foxwoods has a lot of machines on it, and yeah, you're right. You'll be ahead like X amount of dollars, because see, with me, we take X amount and that's it.
Yeah.
Once it's gone, it's gone. But I've been fairly lucky because I stop at a certain point and I, pocket my money, but when it's, I'm not gonna. I've seen people sit there and they keep throwing in the money. If you don't win, get off the machine.
The way that I see it, if someone wants to, go on a vacation wherever, and they want to, say, go on the Mount Washington, the cruise there on the, not the Mount, the ship, the Mount Washington.
Yeah, the Mount Washington.
Yeah, on Winnipesaukee.
Yeah.
Say they want to go out in the ship, they spend money on the boat fare. What's the difference in my mind between spending the money on the boat fare or spending the money at a slot machine?
Yeah, really, there isn't.
It's just you're purchasing another good or service or entertainment. It's like going to a music show,
And go down 93 or come up 93. What do you see?
The liquor store.
Yeah, exactly.
The liquor stores.
But yet they'll arrest you for DWI.
Yeah, the state liquor cartel.
And of course, as I asked you up at the State House too that day, how do they feel about same-sex relations or
transgender folks?
Yeah,
as well.
and all that stuff. I mean,
so that's actually one thing. I met with a week or two ago. I met with the lobbyists for Freedom New Hampshire, which is the transgender rights advocacy group, and I'm very much supportive of the House bill that they had in the last session to extend the discrimination protections for public accommodations to people who identify with whatever gender identity. I supported it. One of the members who switched to the Libertarian Party didn't initially support it. I'm not totally sure on why. I haven't talked to him extensively about it. But at least 2 out of the 3 of us are very supportive of that. The Libertarians for the longest time had been supportive of homosexual marriage in the state of New Hampshire. In fact, the candidate for governor that was responsible for getting us ballot access the first time was the first candidate for governor, I think, ever to be very unequivocally pro, gay marriage. So, that's always been a thing since 1971 when the National Libertarian Party was founded. They've always been very consistent on those.
Yeah.
Things. Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
Well, you seem. I know we're coming down to the end of this, but you seem to be a very intelligent young man, Caleb, and I really am hoping to get to know you more.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we will. We'll have a whole nother year together at the very least.
Yes and no, but I mean, I really want to hear more of this because I myself feel like I'm out of it with the Democrats. I've got a bill filed this year about the handicap up there. I mean, that between the LOB and it showed that the other day when Representative Ivan there, Forrest fell.
Oh yeah.
Passed out up there.
Yeah.
They don't treat the handicapped very well up there, or disabled.
Yeah.
Because whatever party's in power, they get the choice seats. And like Armin and I are up back there. That's not no place where we belong. I mean, I have a walker, yes, and he has a cane and he has a walker too. His walker is more of a thing there, but there's no way out for us. We can't go down that side because it's too thin.
It's too thin, yeah.
So you got to go up, and behind us is not much room. And then you have to either go up and then back down. It's crazy. Luckily, when we had to vote, my box was just up back of it, so I was okay. He had to go way over to section 4 to cast his ballot.
Oof.
Yeah. And now then they afterwards. I guess I got mad and I left because I didn't stick around because I felt like I was yelled at and I didn't appreciate it. I was trying to help him because I was right behind him, and he kept saying, "Dick, hold me." I said, "Yeah, I'm right here, and I'm not gonna leave you." And somebody started yelling. I said, "Excuse me," and when I finally they get over, they took right over, Fine. So I just got out of it because they wanted to have their caucus. And I said, well, that's it for me. That's when I get to talk to you outside there. But
oh, yeah.
I wasn't going back to be yelled at. But anyway, so, I really would like to hear more of it and see just where they're coming from, what their thoughts of the future are, and, you yourself. And so...
Well, you'll be able to hear a hell of a lot more from us. We'll be making a lot of noise, doing a lot of things.
So when do you have your caucus?
We generally speaking meet, in the mornings during regular session. So we'll meet, an hour early, like the Republicans and Democrats do. But we hold our caucus in room 104 in the Legislative Office Building, the Legislative Administration.
See, that's hard for me because I've got to either go down and come across the tunnel, which I do not like.
Yeah.
Because of dummy elevators there.
Or you're going to park the other, yep, I know, I get you.
So it's easier if it's in the State House, but see, if it's over there, when I have committee meetings over there, then I'll ask for a parking spot in the garage.
One thing I've always thought they should do is, I know they give the senators and the president of the Senate and the Speaker of the House, they give them preferential parking right there on the street.
I have.
Why not make all the parking around the house itself actually for disabled folks or for people who have a legitimate reason, say someone who's at the church, right,
yeah.
or whatever it is, and then have all the other parking for the other reps, because there is parking, it's not.
Well, that's like the seating. Why aren't we given the front row or something?
Yeah, or at least a section that's easily accessible. Whether or not it's the front of section 2.
And I was told by the chief of staff that that's at the speaker's.
It's at the speaker's discretion.
Yeah,
I'm aware.
Well, we've got to come to a close of Around Town, and we've been talking with State Representative Caleb Dyer, and I guess you might say you are the chairman of the Libertarian Party for now?
No.
You're not anointed yet?
No, the chairman of the Libertarian Party is different from me. So I'm the... We actually don't have a caucus leader, but the chairman is Darrell W. Perry. He's a good guy. He lives out in Keene. And I'm just the, I guess, the legislative leader or floor leader or whatever you would...
Now, that surprises me because Keene is Democrat over there usually.
Yeah, but there's a number of folks out there who lean towards personal responsibility, fiscal responsibility, and also keep the social liberal aspects of it. So yeah, we're all over the state.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on there, Caleb. I know you're dying to hit the slopes, so be safe out there. Don't come in a cast.
Try not to.
Thanks. So thank you to Ian Marx, my director, and. If you have any questions, give him a call, and he's at the State House, and we'll look forward to talking with you all soon. I'm your host, Dick Patten. Have a great day. Keep warm, and don't fall down on the ice. So with that in mind, have a great one.